Welcome to the presentation of Strategy and Services. My name is Dr. Suzanne Van Hove and I will be your instructor. In this module, we're going to talk about how to decide a strategy as well as the 4 P's of strategy. We're going to look at the topics within the principles of service strategy in smaller chunks so that we can ensure that we have a good understanding of all of these concepts. These concepts are new in ITIL 2011 or revised in ITIL 2011. So first of all, when we're deciding a strategy, it's almost like it's strategy 101. You have to understand, well, how are we going to get here? What are we going to do to get there? How do we gain the market competition or the market share? First of all, you have to always recognize that there is competition, and you, as a service provider, have to do something that will outperform the competition. You need to do something that will differentiate you, and in other words, you can provide more value than the competition itself. You need to do better by being different. So service providers must meet customer objectives, so the desired business outcome, while managing the field of constraints. So understanding the boundaries that we have to work within, as well as understanding how we need to work so that we can differentiate ourselves, is the purpose of a strategy. So other strategic basics here is that we have opposing dynamics within our strategy. We can be static versus dynamic. Well, strategic plans must be kept up. Otherwise, just starting that sentence. Strategic plans must be kept up with or anticipate if possible, the dynamic business environment. If your strategy has been set and it's not moving, your organization is not going to move. At the same time, if you're overly dynamic, if you go to the extreme where you're constantly changing, you're not ever going to deliver what's necessary. It creates a level of chaos. We also have this operational effectiveness versus functional improvements. We have to compare with what's delivered to what's within the industry and then do something different. So we need to deliver effectively, deliver what's asked for, and then provide the necessary functional improvements so that we stay up with the Joneses, basically, so that we continue to deliver what's in the industry, but then also allow ourselves to do something different, to differentiate ourselves. Next, we have this dynamic of status quo versus innovation. We want to achieve value capture, and I'm going to come back and define that in just a minute. But we want to achieve value capture to ensure that we have the operational support and the continued investment of our service delivery. Value capture is an important concept in that if we have been innovated, do we own the rights to our innovation so that not only can we continue to deliver to it, but we also make something from it. Think of it this way. If we've been innovated, you know very quickly your competitors will also tack on or try to offer the same level of innovation. If we're able to capture and be first to market and then own the innovation, then we're going to continue to gain investment in our organization. This will be a pretty long discussion in a later module. We'll return to value capture. We also have to outperform the competition. This means that we need to provide services that can be delivered within the constraints defined by superior performance that will also differentiate us from the competitor. So in other words, we have to not only own the service, we have to be able to mitigate constraints and then, to top it off, throw in something different. The 4 P's of strategy are really important to this overall concept of developing a strategy. The 4 P's are shown in the diagram of perspective, position, plans, and patterns. So let's define each, and then we'll look at some in-depth detail on upcoming slides. First of all, the first P is perspective, and it's going to describe a vision or direction for an organization. Position will describe how the organization will compete against other providers. The plan will be the means of transitioning from an as-is to the to-be kind of an organization. And the pattern is the ongoing repeatable actions made to meet strategic objectives. So let's look at each of these in a bit more detail. Strategy as a perspective requires that we have clearly defined values and beliefs and a purpose. We need a clear mission and vision statement, not only for us as a service provider, but also understanding the mission and vision of the customer or the business that we'll be supporting. We need to define the organizational perspective, which is going to come from the organizational stakeholders through their actions, through their documents, as well as through an agreement of what we capture in our own documentation. That organizational perspective is fairly difficult to change. If you've been a traditional, stodgy organization from day one, it's going to be very difficult to change it into an innovative and active organization. Doesn't mean that it can't happen, but don't expect it to happen overnight. The characteristics of a perspective include the timeless nature of that perspective and that it should be clear and memorable. It should promote and drive action within the organization, and it provides boundaries, so it allows the staff to operate and experiment. This is what we want when we want to deliver services that provide differentiation as well as innovation. Strategy as a position is a continued discussion around perspective. We want a level of distinctiveness, which means that we're going to have a differentiated value proposition that's going to be attractive to customers. There's 4 types of positions. So we have variety-based positioning, we have needs-based positioning, access-based positioning, and demand-based positioning. Variety-based positioning means that we're going to deliver services and we're going to focus on the variety of customer needs and we're going to work to meet them in a distinctive manner. So we're going to be very broad in how we deliver services. A needs-based positioning is focused on one specific customer or customer group, and it's going to provide the services to meet their specific needs. Access-based positioning is focused on providing services by meeting customer needs based on location, scale, or structure. And finally, demand-based positioning is really a combination of variety-based and needs-based positioning, where we look at all of the customer needs, and then we also look at the specific customer needs of a single customer or customer group. So in other words, it's everything for everyone at that point. The third P of the 4 Ps of strategy is plan. A plan is a course of action that's going to allow an organization to achieve its strategic objectives. How an organization prepares to invest to reach its objectives would be detailed in that plan. Plans can be long-term or short-term, and they'll provide multiple scenarios and options for that organization. They'll provide the strategic responses and level of investment. What we want to do with a plan is to create a baseline from which assessments and improvements can be driven and then measured against to show the improvements or change. Strategy as a pattern is really the definition of how an organization operates to meet its objectives. The patterns would be embedded in the culture of the organization, and it would be a direct consequence of the perspective, plan, and position. It is a basis for prediction or proactive operation, and it would also identify areas of opportunity. So we have the case for new strategies or improvements. Thanks very much for joining us today.